With every match, a warrior is born. Step inside the ring. This is the Whip Podcast with your host, devastating Daryl Pace and Deshaun Whip Dog Whipple.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Wrestling Heroes and Insiders Podcast, aka The Whip Show. Y'all been following us for 3 seasons. You know what it is. I am Deshaun Whip Dog Whipple, and I am here with the general manager of podcasting. I am here with the world champ. No, he's like the big gold belt type of guy. The big gold belt champion of pro wrestling. My co-host.
Devastating Daryl Pace back again. Week 3.
Week 3, man. Daryl, we had Vince Russo on the show, which was already big. Yep. And of course, Vince Russo causes controversy, and he's been causing controversy in the comments, but we love it. That's what's up, man. Shout out to Vinny Rue. We've had Vincent Berry, yep, the writer of Lance Von Erich's Wrestling as a Von Erich book. Make sure you check that out, lancebychance.com. We also got coming down the pike, John Cena Sr. We got media personality Peter Rosenberg from Hot 97. We got all types of people. So season 3 is going to be amazing, but we're going to do something different today. Normally we have a wrestler on here. We interview them about their career, what they think about pro wrestling. But with everything going on in the world, we got to make sure we talk about something that's dear to us, and that's Black history. So today we brought on 2 great Black pro wrestling podcasters. I was blessed to be on the 1130 podcast with him before. I thank you for that. So I want to shout them out and bring them on today, and we're just going to talk about life with them. So first and foremost, as I just spoke on, from the 1130 podcast, I got my guy, Deandre Cherry. What's going on, man?
What's going on with you, man? What's going on? What's going on, Deshaun? What's going on, Daryl? Appreciate you guys joining me here, man. Appreciate you guys having me on the podcast. I'm so used to, being the host, though, but thank you, man. I appreciate it. This is going to be fun.
You see it, Daryl? He's about to try to throw to me. I'm supposed to throw to him, man.
It's all about love. This is not the Monday Night Wars. We're not trying to put nobody out of business. They better not be trying to put us out of business.
That's right. That's what they trying to. Man, listen, he didn't even want to have guests on his show. Next thing I know, he had Izzy on there from NXT. Miss Sauce, you know what I'm talking about. I'm like, look what he's trying to do, man.
I thank you guys, man.
But then we also got on another amazing brother. This man has the Down 5 podcast. He got about 14 podcasts. He pretty much got his own network of podcasting. I want to give a shout out to my guy, Gator. What's going on, man?
What's going on, everybody out there in podcast world? And to Whip and Daryl, I appreciate y'all having me on, man. This is awesome. I'm just trying to creep in the back and see what y'all doing,
And Daryl, I want to tell you a story about Gator right quick. So I met Gator initially through a podcast Facebook group. And I didn't know if he was doing a wrestling podcast at the time, but he was like, man, I really like wrestling. I've been checking y'all out. It's dope, man. He was like, I hope y'all get me on there sometimes. I would never respond to the messages. I was big time. I'm joking, man. I'm joking.
But I was like, I'm just trying to learn from the best. That's all it is. I was hitting you up. I'm telling Dre, I was telling like, Dre, hey, man, we should get on something. We should do something. So I'm working on it, man. Outside interference. Event is coming. Outside interference. That's the name. It's coming.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Well, seriously, guys, thank you for being on the show. But like I said, we want to do something different today, and we kind of want to talk about, because it is Black History Month, man. And I kind of talked to you guys on your podcast, 1130 podcast, and guys, definitely make sure y'all go back and check that out, about possibly doing a Black wrestling podcaster convention. Because growing up as Black men in this world, we were taught what? Be basketball players, rappers, in the streets, man. Even people that came up in good lifestyles, they just never thought we would like wrestling growing up. Well, they definitely thought we would grow out of it, man. And I think Daryl can attest to this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was brought up on the tough, tough streets of West Side Detroit, man. Rosedale Park, West Side. It was tough growing up, man. I barely had 2 cars. It was tough growing up. Barely had 5-6 meals in my belly.
Listen, if y'all ever hear about the 10th percentile, Daryl is like in the top 2 of them. So believe that. But anyway, but I say that to say, wrestling, they always assume that we will grow out of it. But us being black men, and Dre, I want to start off with you. When did you first remember liking pro wrestling, and what made you stay with it, man?
Well, it was about like the age of 8 years old, 8 or 9 years old. A friend, he was a neighbor actually, and he asked me, he was like, "Man, you watch wrestling?" And I was clueless. I watch football, I watch basketball, how you say it. And I was like, "Nah, I don't." And we went in, and he turned it on, and the thing I remember the most seeing the first time was Sunday Night Heat. And my cousin was a wrestling fan too, along with his father. They were in WCW. They liked the Booker T and stuff. And I seen Stone Cold, and I seen all these big wrestling personalities. And I was like, man, what is this? What is this? And I just gravitated towards it. And it was just like, this is awesome. Like, The Rock was my favorite growing up, like hands down. And me coming into that era of in about 99, it was just when Stone Cold got hit by a car. I was just talking about this on my podcast not too long ago, where he just came in when I was coming into wrestling. Stone Cold just got hit by a car, so I wasn't seeing much of him. So he was just, out. So I was just learning, who's all these guys? And it was just so good to me. And I stuck with it. I just stuck with it. And surely did. My mom or a lot of people thought I would grow out of it, because when you're a wrestling fan, you get looked at a certain type of way. And, it's like, oh, you like wrestling? I don't know if you guys, not to jump all over the place, but Bad Bunny, who was at the Royal Rumble,
yeah.
And everybody, went on Bad Bunny for being a wrestling fan, and I thought that was like, wow, really? Like, why my man can't be a wrestling fan? And, still, I'm 30 years old and I still enjoy it.
Nice. Gator, tell me, how did you start, and what made you stay connected, man?
Man, so the earliest memory I can remember is, me and my friends playing on the playground and, just like play wrestling and try to, execute the perfect heart attack, because I was a huge Heart Foundation fan back in the day. I remember my grandmother actually, was into wrestling, and she loved JYD back in the day. That was her boo right there. As a matter of fact, growing up in a single parent home, my brother used to tell everybody that JYD was my daddy, and that, he was already, wrestling and everything. That's why he wasn't around the house. It's sad, but it's funny. We laugh about it now, but just say it. And what's weird? My dad does bear a striking resemblance to JYD. So maybe that's where that comes from. But no, man, I remember, being just, watching my grandmother, man, watching Saturday night's main event, and seeing the colorful characters, man, the Coco B. Wares, the like I said, the Heart Foundation and the Macho Man. I was watching all these people, man, and I, as a little quiet kid, man, who was a little bit of a nerd, man, I embraced that the boisterousness of it. I embraced the theatrics of it. Being on the playground, I was just the little kid pointing up in the air, looking at stratocumulus clouds and being just as nerdy. But, when me and my friends would be playing, I could be Hulk Hogan, I could be JYD, I could be all those things. So I embraced that side of it, and it just became a thing that just kind of kept me entranced, man. When you see, like I said, these larger than life people like the Ultimate Warrior and, all these people coming about, man, it just caught my attention. And then, of course, came the Monday Night Wars. Then, it came at a perfect time for me because I was in high school. I was at that point where the edginess was perfect timing. So I got to really start keeping up with a lot of those things. And I was there for the birth of the Stone Colds and the Rocks and, you know, the DX Army and all that kind of stuff, man. And all those things intrigued me. And they continue to. They continue to intrigue me after that, because at the end of the day, man, you know, as I started to learn that wrestling is not necessarily straight on the book, as they would say. You know, it's not, you know, it's predetermined. But once I started to learn about that, you know, it's like I started respecting these guys even more, because how could they do some of the things that they do? You know, you know, how can they, you know, I mean, watching I literally gasped, man, watching Hell in a Cell, Mankind and Undertaker, man. And, you know, and to see, you know, the things that they was putting themselves through, I had so much respect for it. And that just carried on into adult life, man. I mean, who doesn't want to, you know, cut a promo like Ric Flair? Who don't want to have a body like Braun Strowman? You know, who don't want to do those things? And like I said, the work and dedication that it takes for those people to get there, oh man, it not only do I respect it, but I watch it, you know, just to be in awe of it. So that's kind of how I am right now with it.
You know, Gator, I love what you just said, because, you know, I don't know if I've ever told my story on the show, but since we're talking about this, I'm going to tell my truth.
Oh, yeah.
Come out right here.
We're sharing truth today.
I'm going to share my truth today.
Truth to power.
So same like you, I was playing it with my He-Man figures, my Transformers, my G.I. Joe, all the stuff that's larger than life, especially He-Man, the super big guy. And then, like similar to you, my grandmother was big into wrestling. I remember my grandmother and my brother watching this stuff. I was like, I don't know what that is. And my brother sat me down, and this was just to set the time period. This is back when they used the real music, you know, like Hogan had Eye of the Tiger, right?
Yeah.
Michael Jackson was playing when they started Championship Wrestling. This was before Superstars and all that. And I saw, it was like a few weeks before Savage beat Steamboat. And they're talking about the Macho Man Randy Savage, all these guys, like you talked about the JunkYard Dog. My grandmother's from the South. So everything that she saw was legit, right? This is all legit stuff. So as a kid, I'm like, larger in life, this is all legit. Couple weeks in, Savage, you know, in the Boston Garden, you know, uses that foreign object on Tito Santana, right? Travesty in the Boston Garden, hooked ever since. I was like, that was an amazing match. You know, he cheated, pipe and all this, hooked ever since. And then been riding that train ever since. So, but yeah, same thing. You know, that Southern grandmother, when you're watching wrestling and she's cussing because, oh my gosh, Jake the Snake had a snake, and your grandmother's like, oh my God, why do they do that? You know, that brings a whole level to it when you're a kid.
You know what? It's so funny you mentioned that, because the reason that I own reptiles right now is because of one Jake the Snake Roberts. Like when I saw him and Damien, I looked at that and I said, that is amazing. Like that is so cool. And that is like, and I would tell people about it, I'm gonna get me a snake. And sure enough, as I got older, that's what I did. And I got like 3 of them sitting in there right now, you know? So
when I'm sitting, you know, I'm watching wrestling now with the kids. There's one thing, you know, the Savage and Jake Roberts, you know, in the whole biting of the cobra. And my daughter saw that. They were like, I mean, they will watch modern wrestling and not really care. They'll watch something from 85, 87 and actually they'll watch a Saturday night's main event from 87, 88, completely through and be amazed. So
seriously.
Right. It's all about the storytelling, man. Sometimes the simplest way to tell a story, or the simplest story, is the best way to do it. You know, as long as you orchestrate a good story, it could be simple. It could be a well-defined good guy and bad guy. Sometimes those are the best stories because they're the easiest to keep along with and the easiest to get invested in.
See that now? I gotta ask you because it sounds like Dre's a little bit younger than us. Not a whole lot, but he's a little bit younger than us. So we gonna talk to him like he's the baby of the bunch. You know what I mean? But so coming up, man, you talked about them saying your dad was JYD and everything. Representation, man. As when we saw coming up, we didn't see a whole lot of guys that looked like us, man.
No.
I mean, we had JYD, we had Coco Beware. Rest in peace.
Kamala.
But you know what I'm saying?
You gotta own Kamala.
But what do we think about? And it was funny because I made it my Black History Month today on my Facebook page. And then we had the one. And it's funny, back then, I know in my hood, if they called you a Virgil, that was a diss.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Problem. They might well call you Uncle Tom.
We want to throw the face, dog. What I said to say, we still loved it. But what did you think about looking back as a grown man now at the representation of the characters we had back then to look at?
You know, it's so weird, man, to look back at some of the, you know, people like a JYD. It was kind of like, that's not quite racist. So it's okay. Coco Beware, not quite. It's just a fun-loving, dancing black guy. You know, but yeah, the representation wasn't the best. Everything was kind of stereotypical. But then again, all the character, you had Duke the Jumpster Drosy on an episode recently, and you know, that's like, okay, these are everything was a character, you know, and I guess it was easier to kind of throw black people into certain characters, you know, like the Saba Simba character, for example, you know, those types of things, which is why I respect the hell out of Ron Simmons, man, for doing what he did and making people look at, you know, black people as more than just, you know, a character. It made him look at, you know, those people as champions and legitimate threats, man, when he held the belt in WCW, man. So shout out to people like that.
Well, I will go. I am a little younger than you guys. Like I said, I grew up in wrestling in the 90s, though. My mother's favorite wrestler was the JunkYard Dog. She would talk about him. She would talk about Coco Beware. And when my grandmother was living, she would always, you know, wonder, you know, what's going on the wrestling, because she'll be very, very intrigued of it. And back then, you know, because, man, I got libraries of tapes, don't even mention the WWE Network, that I would go back and watch, you know, a lot of those WrestleManias, even WrestleMania 3 where my man Deshaun went at, you know, just the representation for the black men back then wasn't really big. You know, like Gator said, a lot of the guys who had a lot of character gimmicks. A lot of the gimmicks back then were characters. And either you had a friendly black guy, or if you had the strong Tony Atlas. And these guys either became tag team champs, or they became a mid-card champion. They really didn't reach the full potential, you know, in that era because of, you know, how blacks were in wrestling. Because, you know, as we see now, we seeing first-time champs and first-time lists. So I think, you know, black wrestling is coming far.
Come a long way. And I'll add in, right? Because I'm going to own our Samoan brothers, right? Because growing up, the Samoans look black to me, right?
Yes.
They look different than I
Hey,
do.
Daryl, that's a good question. What's Talking Kid mixed, man?
He looked like a brother to me. And,
That's what I thought. Talking Kid looked like a brother, man.
Yeah,
he talked like a brother. And so to add what you guys are saying, right? We grew up in savages, right? So you either had the Samoans, which was 100% savages, you know, and that's how they depicted, right? Or unorthodox. And then we had the brothers that were either simple or powerhouses, but they're just powerful but not smart, or, you know, just, again, people that's creative, they could dance and all that, but you knew they weren't going to be top of the card. And if you look at the, you know, we'll talk about it in the 90s too. In the 80s, that, you know, racism was a way to get heat. You know, you watch some old Paul Orndorff and Greg Valentine videos, you know, you'll see some nasty stuff going on when they wrestle the JunkYard Dog, especially, right?
If you ever get a chance, watch Hogan and Tony Atlas. Hogan says, I think they're in Memphis. Hogan says something to the degree of, man, get this brown clown out of my face, or something to that degree. I just thought Hogan's this like Sterling Golden type of heel character. But you're right. It was definitely a way to get heat. I mean, we all remember or heard of the Roddy Piper Bad News Brown. What happened there at WrestleMania. But I want to jump in right quick, and we want to move bounce around, but we talked about that. But what y'all think about the representation today, though? I mean, we got cats like the Hurt Business, the New Day, you know what I'm saying? We got Book, we got Stevie, you know what I'm saying? What do y'all think about what we got going on for these young guys to look at now?
Young guys now is pretty cool to see how it's turning out to be. You know, Kofi Kingston, who's been around for so long, now he became, you know, a WWE champion. The Hurt Business is doing their thing with their sister of MVP coming in and helping push the guys of Bobby Lashley, who's a great talent, Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin, who's been in WWE, who came back some years ago, but just awesome.
Yeah.
And not even to mention Sasha Banks. So I think, it's going great. Will we see another Black WWE champion in the future? It's that's something to talk about.
Yeah. And now, Dre, during their time period, that's when the world changed, right? We found out that Black could be marketable, that Blacks had money. And if you put the right face and not only, to bring Black people to the table, but white people, everybody to the table. And I see it, with Sean's, background there, when they brought up, Ron Simmons obviously was key to that, and The Rock. But you can't have Rock without Ron. Ron Simmons doesn't get the credit because Rock had somebody to play off of.
Yeah.
And he had that secondary, I call it the Starscream role. We had a Megatron, you had Starscream.
Yeah.
He was guy always trying to overcome Megatron. He had the same thing here, right? It's the same thing. The Rock always trying to take over the nation from Ron Simmons. And so, Dre, you might want to talk about that period and what that meant to Blacks.
The period where The Rock was trying to take over the nation of domination.
The Rock, that period in general, yeah.
Yeah, because that period was awesome too, because Ron Simmons was at the time when he was in WCW, he was the first Black champion, and to coming over to form the nation of domination and to carry that. And of course, when they stick Black guys together in a group, of course, it get looked at a certain type of way. And, and The Rock coming in with his, charisma and just knocked it out the park.
And the way that you mentioned that's one of the things I love about the New Day. Like, like you were saying a second ago, Dre, when, we're used to, we're going to just, they all look alike. Let's just stick them together. But New Day was able to kind of change that dynamic a little bit, and to really do something different and really creative than other just being a whole bunch of Black guys put together. Mm-hmm. Hurt Business actually is similar in the fact that you don't even think of them as, we just some Black guys. You just look at them as a legitimate faction. They are, by far one of the highlight factions right now. And I got to give a shout out to Miss Bianca Belair and some of the things that she's doing. Man, we got to go with the Street Profits and some of the stuff. There is definite representation for the Black community out there right now. Keith Lee, you got to, look at him as one of those people that's going to be a rising star up there. So, man, the future definitely looks a lot darker.
Yeah. What they call it, Black excellence, man. I'm glad you said that.
Black excellence, man.
Because now we definitely got way more diverse characters. When you talk about the New Day, they still fly, but they also have fun. And all of these boys are college-educated, intelligent young men,
right?
That just have fun. You know what I'm saying? And are great at their craft. But with that being said, you talked about it already. I was going to touch on that anyway. The Royal Rumble, the Women's Royal Rumble, Bianca Belair. What you think about her, man? And I want all three of y'all to talk. What y'all think about that young lady?
I go first, man. I loved it. Oh, yeah. And I'm not going to lie. I shed a tear when she won it. I shed a tear because the emotion, the poured out of the screen when she got up on the top ropes and the pyro just went off and you could just see her just in all of it. I loved it, every single minute of it. And, she's going far with it. She's going really, really far with it. I loved it.
Hey, man, whenever somebody says to me, wrestling's fake or wrestling don't mean nothing, I want them to take a look at that pyro going off when Bianca won the Royal Rumble and see that pure emotion. I want them to see that video that WWE posted of her coming backstage and hugging her husband and just embracing, and literally you hear her sobbing. It's just because it's predetermined don't mean it's not real. And those are real emotions. Those are real, facts. I'm proud of Bianca, man. I've been watching her since she, first walked into NXT, and I was like, I don't know if this hair gimmick is gonna get over. Like, I just didn't really get it at first.
Yeah.
But then after watching her progress, and I remember her those first few matches in the ring, she was really athletic, but real green. You can see it. And just over the last couple of years, you can just see that constant growth and just the passion that she has. Man, I don't think they could have gave it to anyone better, man. You looked at like a Rhea Ripley out there and the things that she's done, but man, you can't. I mean, it's her time, man. And I'm looking forward to seeing her and Sasha Banks tear it down at WrestleMania. I think that's going to probably be the show stealer of the night. I see it coming.
Daryl?
Well, I'm not a huge fan of some of the booking with the Royal Rumble, but no, she's a phenomenal athlete, and she did a fantastic job. I like the gimmicks they did with the pulling themselves up out of the ring and all that stuff. I think she's a fantastic athlete. I wish that the women got more time, on the mic in short segments, right? They don't need 30 minutes to talk, but I would love to see her get more time, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes here and there, to kind of get more of her personality over. But I think, by and large, I mean, it's definitely her time. I saw her back actually. I want to believe it was either in Florida, when not last year, but the WrestleMania a couple of years ago. I think the one in Miami or something like that, when she was working for NXT, and they had like the whole NXT crew doing a lot of dark matches and stuff down at there, and it was a phenomenal athlete. And you're right, she's come a long way. Working with Sasha Banks, I think is going to be fantastic, and very excited. And she does a lot, for women's wrestling, and brings a lot of legitimacy to what she does in the ring.
Yeah, I'm going to say past myself. I'm going to be honest. I'm a big Bianca Belair mark. I am. But like you said, Gator, when I first saw her, the braid and the whole EST thing, I'm like, I don't know if that's going to resonate with the people. You know what I'm saying? But she's really growing, man. She's growing. And to be honest, I think she's only hit a smidgen of how good she really going to be. She's not even, her character ain't even all the way clicked 100% just yet. Like, she's got so much more that she's going to get a business in the next 5 years. Even with the crying thing, normally I don't like it when the wrestlers cry at the end of the match because I feel like they coming out of their character. But for some reason, in that moment, it felt like it was real. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't Shawn Michaels, I lost my smile. You know what I'm saying? It was right. I felt the realness of it, man. With that being said, we still in that pandemic era of pro wrestling, man. Whew. Going into 2022, towards the end of it, who do you see shining? And I know Roman got the company. They gave the company back to Roman again. But who else do you really see breaking out, man? A lot of people talk Big E, but I'm gonna tell you, I'm not 100% just sure. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm not 100% sure Big E is gonna be the breakout superstar they want him to be. Yeah,
I want him to be. I really do. I just don't know if he's going to be that guy. And like I said again, I want him to be. I think going into 2022, I think that they seemed like they were ready to hitch that trailer up to Keith Lee initially when they made him make the jump. Now I'm kind of iffy on that, but the one thing about WWE, they've learned, if you look at the scenario with Drew McIntyre, they're starting to learn how to heat people up real quick. And I would not be surprised to see them hitch that trailer to Keith Lee going into the next year, especially, and I think sometimes McMahon, I think they have to kind of be given an example that something is going to work. I don't think they had a problem with Keith Lee being a black champion, but I do believe that if you have an outpouring for a Bianca Belair, if she wins WrestleMania, then I think that McMahon will be more likely to go ahead and put that trailer on the back of Keith Lee and let him run with it.
I'm going to throw in an odd card. So number one, I think Sasha Banks. Now I know this thing with Bianca, but Sasha Banks coming off the Mandalorian, right? Very marketable. Now she might choose to stay, not stay. but she's a bona fide movie star. I mean, not movie star, TV star, right? Yeah. So they're gonna have to put a lot of money. They're gonna put a lot of money in Sasha. So even win or lose, she's not going anywhere. I would love to see a heel Xavier Woods. I think they missed. I think Big E, they messed up a little bit.
Yeah.
And Xavier Woods doesn't have to go heel on the New Day, but a heel Xavier Woods that's tired of being held back and he didn't get his shine like the other two guys got their shine. I think it'd be big. I think he's got the potential, and I think he's got the right promo skills for it.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. That's a wild card.
Yeah, and they were doing something weird a couple weeks ago where they kind of had, it wasn't really animosity, but it was a little bit more of that bickering back and forth between Kofi and Xavier Woods. And when you say that, it made me think, I wonder if they would have the guts to pull the trigger on a New Day split. Like, they didn't split Big E in the traditional way from the New Day. They just had them, on separate shows. And hey, at the Royal Rumble, they were all together again and all that kind of stuff. I wonder would they have the guts to do it, because I think I'm like you, Daryl. I think Xavier would be a phenomenal heel. I think he would.
Well, I'm gonna go in with a wild card. I'm gonna say, and this is my pick because I was watching WWE's The Bump, and they was doing some mystery promo thing going on for about a month or so, and they revealed who it was. And I say what's missing in pro wrestling now, especially WWE, is good storytelling. Someone who's on the mic that can, really engage, keep people engaged, the story, and whether you want to go high, whether you want to go low or sad or be happy with it. Mansoor, I know a lot of people may not know of him. He was in, I think, WWE Super Showdown over in Saudi Arabia, and he got the contract there. And he pulled these hell of a promos where he told the stories, and he had a mask on. I'm sorry. Nobody knew who he was. Everybody guessed, try to figure out who he was. And he had a mask on. And the people who knew, who he was, I don't think anybody would have gave him the chance on the day. So I say Mansoor, just because, in my opinion, he told a story, in those promos leading up to trying to figure out who he was. And, on the other card, I say Matt Riddle. I think we need somebody really, really entertaining.
You like Matt Riddle, huh? Okay. Now, I want to ask y'all this question, too. I was reading online the other day, and they said WWE has no plans on ever giving us Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. To me, I think that is crazy. They put heat behind Bobby Lashley 15 years ago, and he looks even bigger now. I was listening to Cornette. Cornette said Bobby Lashley looked taller than he was back then. You know what I'm saying?
Does.
So I was like, especially granted, we know Bobby can't really talk. We get that. You know what I'm saying? That's not a problem. But you got MVP now. You telling me MVP and Bobby Lashley, Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. Come on, man.
I mean,
you tell me you can't heat that up for money at a WrestleMania?
Oh yeah, man. If you look at the way they had Bobby Lashley look at Monday night when he faced Riddle, I mean, I don't see how you couldn't see a Lesnar Lashley, just an all out big bruiser battle, almost like Strowman Lashley a couple years ago. Where it's just like just two big bulls just going at it. I can see that at WrestleMania, man, and that'll give Brock a good little payday too. It'll be an interesting match.
And then I don't know if you guys, he talked about The Bump. If you ever watch, what's it called, Talking Smack or whatever the little show is that comes on, they had MVP and Bobby Lashley on there going back and forth with Heyman. It was some good stuff, man. It was some good stuff. And I'm just sorry. Just like I told y'all, I'm a big Hogan fan. I'm a mark for the big guys, but I just think it's a lot more money in Bobby Lashley than they ever really got. What do you think, Daryl?
I mean, I agree. I mean, I don't know if they've ever really used them right since they came back, and they completely misused them. It's kind of like, why'd you bring it? And it's like the planning, right? Why'd you bring in this big guy? I mean, he looks phenomenal and not know what to do with him? Because it's clear they did. And now they seem to be using him correctly. and having him with Brock now. Now Brock might be a different thing for his paydays and what he's willing to do and not willing to do. Could be a different story. But I hear you. That'd be a great match. I think for me, you picked up Bobby Lashley, Ricochet. I assume he's a brother. I don't know what Ricochet is.
Yeah,
I'll call him a brother for the show.
Yeah,
call him a brother today.
Okay.
And it's like Ricochet. If you use him right, slow him down, use him right. I understand the mic skills aren't there. I know that. All right. That is your AJ Styles. That's a young AJ Styles. Same skill set, same ability. He can work that kind of a great match. He can be the Shawn Michaels. He just can't speak. Give him only a minute or so to say something, and completely misused. And I would love to say that he's going to be the breakout star for this year, but I know his contract's coming up. I don't think I don't know, maybe in AEW. We'll see what happens. But I would love to say that because Ricochet has so much potential that's been completely wasted.
But you talked about him not being able to speak, and I agree. But you know what though? Sometimes, and I know it's so much money and there's so many sponsorships, so many ads, but you got to give people a chance. AJ even said himself when he was in TNA, he really didn't like to talk. And if you remember, they gave him that Ric Flair gimmick for a minute. He had to talk more. He hated it. And when he first came to WWE, watch it back. He didn't really say much. But as time progressed, you can't take the mic out of AJ's hand now. And he's still not the best talker, but good enough for what he's trying to produce. Because I'm going to tell you, mic skills in wrestling, just in life, when you believe in yourself and believe in your character, I'm telling you, that stuff will come out.
Yeah.
You just got to get a chance to do it. You can't do it in promo class in front of your peers. You got to be able to do it in front of a live crowd, But that's where I want to go next, man. The best talkers in the business. I saw a post the other day, and it had like The Rock, CM Punk. It had R-Truth on there. I mean, you know what I'm saying? If you were to name your top 3 talkers of all time, man.
And these are black wrestlers, right? Keep them on the top.
Man. Hey, I'm throwing a black wrestler out there, but whoever you think your top 3, man. Personally, I have a thought process about the black wrestlers in their talk, but I'm going to let y'all talk first, and I'm going to say what I feel.
Well, obviously, we'll throw out The Rock first. Obviously, everybody's going to be on everybody's list, so get The Rock on the table first, right? Get the low-hanging fruit. The Rock's going to be one of them. Kamala.
That was, he cut a hell of a promo.
He cut a hell of a promo. No, The Rock is one of them.
Hey man, if you're talking about black wrestlers, man, in general, you're right in the fact that a lot of them don't get to talk like they, I used to be a big fan of Bad News Brown, man. Like listening to him.
Hey, Bad News made you feel it, baby.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. And he would draw you in, man, with that. And you can't, The Rock is definitely low-hanging fruit because that's the first person you automatically kind of switch over to. But a lot of times, man, we forget people like a Godfather who was able to, really kind of tight. And he's gimmicky, but you got to remember, he had like 5 different gimmicks. And he was able to really kind of excel and cut a different type of promo with each one of those gimmicks. So definitely got to speak of those 2. And then, man, I'm going to take a little bit of a weird turn. I'm going to go to like a Sasha. Sasha's actually really good on the mic. Yeah. When you give her a chance to let her just go ahead and cut promos, she's actually pretty good.
I wish they'd give her more because when she used to be the legit boss for real in NXT, woo,
oh yeah.
I mean, I'm a grown man, and I wanted a legit boss t-shirt.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted the little things on my head.
Yeah.
I didn't care, man. So I'm with that, man.
Yeah, and that's a shame. It's just not getting the time, right? I'm like Zeus. I mean, these guys literally got screams and grunts for years. So I don't think enough of us have gotten a good, because we talk about Mike, we don't get enough mic time. We don't. We unfortunately don't, and that's the shame. You get the same guy speaking for 20 minutes. You know, Randy Orton for 30 minutes every day, and it's like, look, man, these guys don't get enough time. Oh man.
You know what? I just forgot about somebody, and I think because I'm thinking in worker scenarios, man, we forgot about Slick. Man, like,
I was thinking about the Reverend, the brother Slick. He was on my mind. He was on my mind.
He just didn't want to say that name, man.
I was knowing it was on my mind. I agree. But hey, you know, he did his job, right? He talked about, you know. So Reverend brother Slick, I would say that he get you in the building, you know, get people in the building.
Oh yeah, man.
Man, this one is hard.
Yeah, I heard y'all say Teddy Long yet. Holla, holla, holla.
What about Jonathan Coachman?
Interesting. Yeah.
I will give Coach this, man. Coach, just like you just said, he definitely did his job, man. And Coach helped put a lot of guys over.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, Coach actually helped bridge. He tried his best to bring wrestling back to the mainstream with his deal with ESPN. Coach could have easily been like, that's in the past. I ain't dealing with that no more. From my understanding, he went into ESPN like, hey, you know, it's a lot of money in this still. You know, obviously wrestling will probably never get back to its heights in the 80s or even the heights in the 90s with Attitude Era. But there's still some equity in wrestling in the mainstream world as well, I think. You know, you know.
And you can't forget Booker T. I mean, you know, Hulk Hogan, he's coming.
All right. Well, since you went there, I want to go somewhere else then. And I spoke on him a little bit. R-Truth. What do you think about this man? Is almost 50 years old and still going strong. Is the character funny? Do you like the character? Do you think the character is offensive? What do you think about what R-Truth is doing right now?
I think R-Truth is living it up right now. You know, every kickoff show he think is, you know, another show. He come into the Royal Rumble, he think it's the Money in the Bank ladder match. He's at WrestleMania, he think it's Sunday Night Heat. Like it's just crazy, you know. And we were talking about Brock Lesnar. I would have loved to see Brock and Bobby Lashley, by the way. But the promo between R-Truth and Brock Lesnar when he was in the ring, and I heard it was a secret bet that Paul Heyman had with R-Truth to try to make Brock Lesnar laugh, and he actually made him laugh. So, I mean, like, R-Truth is gold, man. I remember back in 2011 here in DC, and I was just like rooting for R-Truth, rooting for him, man. Even though he was going through his little Jimmy phase, but I was just like, man, come on, R-Truth. You got it. You could beat John Cena here.
Yeah.
And, you know, he didn't beat him. But, man, I dig him, man.
You know what? I've always said I wish they would have pulled the trigger and gave him the title at least that one time.
Yes.
Because even with that, this man made Little Jimmy a real thing when you have fans. Because I was watching Roman one time and he said the way the WWE decides who they're working with, you got to be a like machine. Meaning long as they know that people are reacting, hitting that button, whether they comment, whether they hating, whether they like, you got. He had people holding up Little Jimmy signs, Little Jimmy t-shirts. That media obviously was over. They should have pulled the trigger that one time, man.
Yes.
Oh yeah, when he was smoking and everything with Little Jimmy. Yeah, we was heel. Little Jimmy, they should have. That was pride. I don't know if he got hurt. He was a little injury prone during that period too, I think. But yeah, that was gold.
That definitely was, man. I just it's so crazy that he's similar to Chris Jericho in a way that he can evolve his character into whatever it is that's going on and to keep his character relevant. And he does it just about better than anyone. You know, like with the Little Jimmy thing, you would never expect something like that to get over, but it's just the way that, and I think that's why he's been with the company so long. You know, he's probably popping Vince every time he comes out there. It's like, you know what? Extend him again. You know, I mean, He's just one of those people who's an entertainer. And I mean, in that business, that you need somebody like that. If it ain't nothing but to jerk the curtain, you know, that you need somebody that's gonna keep people engaged. And he's he's excellent at doing that.
I'm glad because I didn't know where you were going. You said Vince McMahon, you said R-Truth, and then you said Jerk the. I don't know what you was about to say, dog. I'm like, no wonder he's been in the company 30 years, man.
Right. Exactly.
But,
it's like
I want to shift gears right quick, man, and I want to talk about AEW. Now, one of the knocks AEW had, a lot of people love it to death, but speaking of black representation, they said it's not a whole lot of us. And then I was sitting here trying to think, what do we got? We got the one cat, the Sunny Kiss dude. And then I was like, who do we have at AEW? Help me out, fellas, if y'all know.
We really don't have too many though. I mean, we got besides Taz,
right. And that's Italian, but yeah.
Yeah, he got Taz. I'm trying to think of
I just thought
What Taz was it, after party or what?
That's the ones that look like the Street Profits, the private party.
Private party.
The after party. We see how much AEW he watched. Private party. If y'all ever see this video, no offense, man. We love you. Come on the show, private party. We love you.
No, I was thinking about another event I was at. Sorry.
Oh, okay. But why? You mean, does that cause you to feel some type of way about AEW, or do you think in 2021 it really doesn't matter? That they don't really have a whole lot of diversity in the characters just yet?
With AEW, I feel as though they don't have any diversity with the characters just yet. A lot of people's issue with AEW is this too indie, it comes off like that. And like I said, Will Hobbs, just private party, little black characters, black guys here and there, but it's really not a lot, it's a whole lot of Cody, but it's not a whole lot of, everybody else. But yeah, man, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. It seems like AEW just like, okay, well, I mean, yeah, African Americans are doing it right now, but we're just gonna do our thing, basically. That's kind of like what it seems like with AEW.
You're right, it's a whole lot of Cody, man. I don't know I know Daryl got the whole series, but the AEW toys done came out. And all 5 of the series got like different incarnations of Cody. Like, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's crazy, man. Yeah. They only make like 6 per series, and Cody's one of them in each one, man.
You know what I'd like to see, and it's not, either in AEW or even what was done in WWE, talk about the 90s wrestling, right, is they had the factions, right? And that was a great way to get a bunch of people over. And if you got to have 10 minutes of promo time, you got 5 guys got a chance to talk, right? So everybody got a minute. I think they could do that a little bit more with the Hurt Business, pass the mic a little bit. But having those factions, I mean, talk about the Nation and even what was DX, all of these, these great characters, we're able to get a lot of spotlight on guys. And I'm hoping that we see more of that. Now, AEW would be right for that because they don't have, a lot of African-American wrestlers. And if they would try to bring in like a small grouping of 3 or 4 guys, they would immediately get the spotlight because they don't have, that diversity yet. So I love to see something like that.
I will
even
say
that known guys. They don't have to be known guys. It'd be guys you've never seen before, but like, hey, we come here and we taking over, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that'd be probably the best. I mean, they've got this whole thing going on. They got a working relationship right now with Impact. If you take Rich Swann and some of those guys and really kind of push them on AEW TV, I think that would go a long way. I mean, let's be honest. If WWE had the same amount of representation that AEW had, they would be all over WWE.
Yeah.
And AEW is supposed to be the alternative. We're giving people chances. We're going to be new and fresh and, all that kind of stuff. And you can't do that without, having that diversity in the mix. So, yeah, man, I think they should go with it. Hey, I mean, Moose would be would fit pretty good in AEW, to be honest.
I want to throw out a name. I want to get one name in here because we haven't talked about him because he hasn't been in these buckets. Jay Lethal. Why has he not gotten it? And then maybe it's his own personal preference, but I mean, obviously you talked about mic skills, you talked about in-ring talent. We've seen it, at the Ring of Honor. We saw it at TNA. Why did he kind of get skipped over?
I'm gonna step in here. And this is not straight up inside intel, but from guys that know him from the independent circuit, I've been around a lot of guys that worked with him. A lot of guys, one, WWE thinks he's too small, which is crazy because guys are smaller now. But WWE still thinks he's too small. And I can only speak. I don't know about AEW, but WWE, from my understanding, just don't see anything in him. They thought he was Black Machismo. They thought he was a character, but Jay Lethal as himself, they don't think it's anything. So if that answers your question, they don't see anything in Jay Lethal. They don't see any money in Jay Lethal himself. And obviously they don't want to do the Macho Man thing because he's passed and everything. But yeah. Which is crazy because Jay Lethal can go.
Oh yeah.
Jay Lethal and they can talk. Jay Lethal, I mean, they said one time the whole way the Ric Flair thing started, he was in the back board and he just started, you know what I'm saying, clowning. He can pop everybody. But but yeah, from my understanding, that's what they have against Jay Lethal.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just shocking because you talk about talent vacuum and people that can't. He checks every box.
Yes.
And he's not on. And you talk about impact. Okay, fine. And he can do impressions of anybody. I mean, come on, think about it. I mean, there's a million ways you can use Jay Lethal, and like I said, I don't know what's behind that, but I think a million other guys would have gotten that opportunity that he should have had by now.
Yeah.
Size is not going to explain that away.
Yeah, Jay Lethal definitely should be on somebody's primetime television at this point in his career. Yeah. I mean, there's no reason he's not on anybody's primetime television. With that being said, I want to go into our segment that we normally do with our interviewees. We're gonna bring it in here right now. It's called Book Yourself. So both of you guys are podcasters in the wrestling world. Dre, I'm gonna start with you, and then Gator, go to you. I want you to book yourself. If you had a way into the business, where do you think you would be able to help wrestling grow the most? Book yourself.
Okay. Just to understand it, if I had a way to get into the business and to help others, how would I book myself?
Yep. How would you either help others, help yourself? What do you think if we could put Deandre Dre on the 1130 podcast, how would you be able to grow in the wrestling world?
Well, I would say, I would book myself more so to help the company in a way is just as far as coming up with good content. But if I, was a wrestler or just someone who would want to get into the wrestling business, I would help the young guys. I would definitely help the young guys. I also speak on content. I'm a big fan of the production side of it. So, that part I would really love to get in and assist. And I don't think WWE needs help with their production. I think that's one thing they're good at. But I think that's one thing that I would really love to do. I'm in a wheelchair. So I wasn't always in a wheelchair, but when I was young, I used to do the cane, jump off the bed and, a choke slam and do everything, man. So I don't know. But besides just get in and create good content and share my love for it, I think that's the best answer I got.
Gator, if you could book yourself in the world of professional wrestling, anywhere in the world of professional wrestling, where do you think Gator would be the best fit? And what would you do?
Man. Let me see. I can picture myself as a character. The hot boy, Dante James. Now come out to Blockburner by Lil Wayne. Yeah, I can see that. Can you tell this was a dream I had one time before?
I can tell, bro.
So, have a lot of warm-up matches and all those type of things, work with some people and get, try to elevate myself. I get friendly with a couple people in the clique. We decided to start our own clique. We call ourselves the Funk Shop. Yeah, there we go. And then, no, I'm gonna stop because because it gets real intense and real yeah. So,
he actually has a whole comic book of this that he's actually trying to say right now.
Look, I got 3 years of storyline written for this particular character, right? But look, all the way to the rain, Dante James. I'm just telling you. But yeah, man, I think I would love to talk. I would love to be a manager. I think that'd be cool. I think being able to book myself as somebody who could be just an antagonistic character, an antagonistic heel, that'd be great. You know, I would love to be the sounding board for a lot of wrestlers that are coming in, just to bounce their characters off of, just to see what it does, you know, because I could talk back somewhat, kind of, sort of, you know. I'm a good punching bag, you know. So that's basically how I would book myself outside of the Ray Dante James thing. I'm gonna have to write that out one day and just put it online, and so everybody can see what I wrote up for myself.
Nice, man. Mr. Pace, I've asked this question to everybody that we've ever had on the show, but just like you dropped the bomb on me earlier about, if we've been doing this show for 3 seasons, you never told me about how you got in. I mean, just messing up our chemistry, you know what I'm saying? If you could book yourself, Daryl, what would you have done? And Daryl actually has promoted wrestling in the past as well.
I have promoted wrestling at Michigan State many years ago. But for me, I love what I did there is to be behind the scenes, coming up with the storylines and the motivation behind the characters. I don't need to tell people how to do their jobs. I don't need to be in the ring, but I love to be behind the scenes. Get me and Jim Cornette, get us back behind the scenes writing some of this stuff. I'd like to be the Jim Cornette learning tree in the back and talk about how we can really progress these characters and the things that work and don't work. And like we keep talking about, no mic time, no this, no that, don't know who these guys are, what they do, what they do. You know, let's get behind that and get them on these guys' shows so they can get their characters over and, you know, give them, if they can't give them time or if they can't get 10 seconds on Raw, then give them these shows, give them podcasts, get them out there. Let's hear about these guys and what they're about.
You know, what they used to do back in the day, kind of back when my wrestling days, and even a little bit, I think they stopped at about 95, 96. Even if the guys were in WWF, they would let them do independent shows if they weren't using them all the time. And sometimes they actually end up making more money than their because back then they wasn't paying guys a contract. They were just paying them per show. So if you got an indie promoter willing to give you, especially if he's a mark, $2,000 or whatever to come in, fly you in, and WWF, you on their roster, but they ain't paying you, or you ain't getting but $300-400 a show. And I think that actually they need to go back to that as well. Let these guys that you're not using, even though it's crazy that in a 3-hour Raw, 2-hour SmackDown, 1-hour main event, 2-hour NXT, there's still people that don't get any run. Let some of these guys go do some of these independent shows. Because, just like we said about the mic skills before, you're not going to get better unless you work a real crowd. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if the crowd is 50 people, 500 people, 5,000, or 50,000. If you could pop the people in that room, not your peers that see you all the time, but different people, you got something. You got some magic, man. Yeah. So I like what you said. I really do think they need to get back to that because, like I said, a lot of the guys have some amazing physical talent. They're video game characters now. You know what I'm saying? Physically, they look athletically, they look like it, but they're just not. They don't connect, man. Like you said, get them on these podcasts. Let them do their own thing. I can't believe we ain't talked about it because we had his partner on the show. We had Montezi on the show, but his boy that does Swerve City podcast, Swerve Strickland. You know, they gave the boy a podcast on the WWE Network, and he gets to interview all these guys, but he also gets to work as well. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he's pulling from some of the best guys in the world and going back and forth with them. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So all that's a very important thing, man. I just let these people learn to be themselves in front of that camera, man, and just blow it up, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a perfect scenario for it now, man. You got YouTube out here. You got all these different avenues that you can, put these people on YouTube and let them go. You know, I mean, and let them hone their characters that way. You know, that might be a little Zack Ryder-ish, but guess what? It works. You know, it definitely works, man. Get them on these podcasts. Let them get exposed to all these other people. Hey, if the gimmick don't work, okay, cool. I'm on TV anyway. But if that gimmick pays off and it starts to work and you start honing the character, man, you get somebody on YouTube and they get somebody's recommended videos, you'd be surprised how fast a cult following will start.
Because even like they let these guys that are not on TV wrestle on main event. Well, yes, but they're still wrestling. They got the wrestling part down. But you're not letting them talk on main event. Even if they don't show it, let them talk in a dark match before they come out. You know what I mean? Rile the crowd up. You know what I'm saying?
You know, I was thinking about this the other day. People say Raw is too long. And if you add up the amount of TV time they have and then go back into the 80s, it's actually the same amount of TV time. You know, we talk about Superstars and Challenge, and then they had prime time. Then you go Spotlight and All-American Wrestling and every other random recap show that they had. If you add up all that time, it's actually the same amount of time. I think the only difference is how they use that time and giving these people, forget the matches, those Mean Gene 10 seconds, 2-minute snippets. If you go back and watch Wrestling Challenge, whatever's out there, there are 2 minutes for Kamala to come out and scare you, or they're 2 minutes because you don't need more than that for these teams, and they get their character over in those 2-minute increments. But to get everybody, almost the whole roster gets over, you know, in those time spots, and they're not doing it now. You're getting one guy 30 minutes, and the rest is wrestling, and you got to get those 2-minute increments to get people.
You remember the vignettes, man? Just like you have a green screen, they put the Ultimate Warrior logo behind him. Yeah. And he said about the rocket ship, he ain't wrestled nobody yet.
Right.
You saw that colorful background. You saw him do his warrior talk. You were ready to pay before we even saw this man touch somebody.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's there. It's there. Or like you said, Mr. Perfect. As a kid, you couldn't tell me that Mr. Perfect couldn't really make the shot with his eyes closed from the other side of the rim, because we saw it. We saw him in a hole in one. I just believe it was real. You see what I'm saying?
He's hitting home runs. He's doing all kinds of that's why I love those EST gimmicks that Bianca did, those vignettes that she had been doing, because it was real Kurt Hennig-ish. And I loved it. That's what I loved about it.
And I'm going to say this before I finish up, and I'm going to touch base with him. I'm going to bring him up since we had him on here. Vince Russo. He gets a lot of hate. But one thing that we talked to him about when we had him on the show, and I think that he doesn't get enough credit for, really trying different things out.
Yeah.
They don't give him any credit for that, but that man was willing to try anything and really did try to give, whether you were mid-card, low card, everybody a little something. Now, granted, all the shit didn't stick. You know what I'm saying? But from my, the way wrestling truly works is it's just like darts. You got 10 darts, how many you throwing, how many gonna hit that bullseye? But if you get a couple, you still good. You know what I mean? So what do y'all think about Vince Russo and how he helped some of the guys back in the day?
Well,
whoever want to jump in.
I go first. Well, I think Russo did a good ass job when he was writing Monday Night Raw and he was doing his thing. I don't know, will we ever go back to that era of seeing, ratings that high and, Raw or WWE itself being as popular and as mainstream that it was then. But I think Russo tried a lot of different stuff. The stuff that he did try, some didn't stick, some did, and hey, I love it. I think when he went to WCW, it kind of ruined him. But I mean, the stuff that he tried, with WWE and the Monday Night Wars was awesome. A lot of people, like Deshaun just said, don't give him his credit.
Yeah, but he was around, man. It's so strange. We always talk about Vince McMahon and him being surrounding himself with yes men. Vince Russo was one of the only people who actually made Vince say yes back then. He would come up with all this creative stuff and throw stuff, and like you would say, just throw shit at the wall and see if it stuck. But when stuff did stick, oh man, I mean, it caught fire. And I think he was the right person at the right time to really kind of bolster the business. Do something shocking. Do something, because at the end of the 90s, man, you're talking about shock rock, basically. You're talking literally, people flying off of the top of steel cages, and you're talking about blood splatter everywhere and all that kind of stuff, man. I mean, he was perfect for it. And he had just the creative mind to think of a lot of sick stuff that got over on TV, man. So, I mean, he doesn't get enough credit for doing that, for having the balls to come to McMahon and say, no, we need to do this. And McMahon, I think, cherishes people who don't tell him yes, who have their own unique thought process. So he just went along with it and made him a lot of money. At the end of the day, that's what that's what it's all about. It's what's best for business, as they would say.
I want to say it's about Vince Russo. Now think about this, especially the tone of the show. When did Booker T become world champion? Who was writing?
Yep.
When did The Rock become world champion? Who was writing?
Yep.
When did D'Lo Brown? When the whole nation, right? D'Lo Brown, everybody, it become these African American wrestlers become champion. Who was writing at the time?
Yeah.
So again, I'm not going to say, but he gave people an opportunity, everyone an opportunity. If you're out there and you can work, you got a shot to work and you got a chance to highlight yourself. And he was willing to give opportunities to African Americans that they never would. Would Booker T have been world champion under Eric Bischoff?
Exactly.
No way.
Would we see Booker T in WWE in the highlight that he got? Would he still be doing what he's doing tonight now if it wasn't for Vince Russo? So some people may have gotten it. Maybe The Rock would have got it no matter what. But if you remember how The Rock was when he first started, you might not have gotten the chance he got without Vince Russo. So.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was going. That's where I was going with it. I totally agree. We would have had the nation. I don't think we would have had the nation. I don't think we would have had the D'Lo Brown with the chest protector and all that stuff, man.
Yeah, I
was a huge D'Lo mark, man. I was a huge D'Lo mark.
Me too, man. I love D'Lo, man. When that head get to shaking back and forth, like I'm down. I love it.
Well, Daryl, all those years, Intercontinental Championship, black hands never touched that thing, right? You might come close, never touch it. Then it became a period of every black guy got to become the Intercontinental Champion. So, I mean, it's something you might not have gotten world. They got Intercontinental Tag Championships. Black guys got their hands on that stuff left and right. And that was a lot of that was during that period to give these guys that highlight. So.
Now, Daryl, before we get out of here, you know what time it is. You got to ask your question to these young men. You know what you do.
Yeah. So what I always ask is, your mark out moments, right? Like when are you, in either, through your podcasts or if you're ever in a locker room or anything like that, you run into this guy and you're like, I can't believe it. I'm here with this person, What is your mark out moment? That point where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here with this guy.
That's an interesting one. Huh. Man, if I was to say a true mark out moment, man, God, you know what? It would probably have to be, I've got two probably, but it'd have to be either The Undertaker. I would love to meet Mark Calloway behind the scenes, or Bret the Hitman Hart, because I was such a huge Hitman fan back in the day, man. So getting a chance to meet Bret Hart in person, man, I would love to just sit down and pick his brain on the business, man. That'd be awesome.
My mark out moment was when I met John Cena, and there's actually two. I met John Cena, but of course, like I said, big fan of The Rock. Grew up and never, attended a wrestling event where he wrestled at. My first wrestling event was in 2006. So I watched his career and wasn't able to make it, but when he came to DC ahead of WrestleMania 29 against John Cena, I got to be there. So if I was to, interview him on the podcast or have him on the podcast, I think I would mark out right there, because I remember also when he came back at Valentine's Day in 2011, and man, I broke down, I cried. I was just, it was awesome. I wish I had a videotape to show everybody, but yeah, mark out moment will be The Rock.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Well, guys, we've been talking all night on this Straight Up Black History Month episode. We know it's been a little different platform than we normally do, fans. Hey, but it's our show. We can do that. But before we get out of here, and we got two guys, well, I'm going to give them 60 seconds apiece. It's time for the final segment of the night. It's called Ring the Bell. With that, both of you guys take your 60 seconds. You can talk about anything. You can promote yourself. You can say something inspirational to the people. Hell, you can talk about what you're going to do tomorrow. Whatever you want to do. But, and I'm going to start with you, Dre. You got 60 seconds. Deandre, from 1130 Podcast, would you ring the bell?
Okay, everybody, I just want to say, man, stay safe. I know it's a crazy time out right now. Everybody stay blessed. Just keep pushing hard at whatever you try to do. Don't give up. Stay consistent. and stay humble and just keep doing what you're doing. You know, a lot of people turn away, and at this time right now, where we all just are stuck at home right now, and they're trying to figure out where to go from here. Just looking within yourself and just keep moving at it, and you're gonna get there. And also, man, don't forget to check out the 11:30 podcast each and every week, man. Each and every week.
All right, and he's in DC. And he made it through them crazy Capitol storm people. So that man's a soldier himself. You understand?
He beat him back. I saw him beat him back.
He was down. They need the National Guards. He had him. You understand what I'm talking about? Gator, now it's your turn, my brother. You got 60 seconds, Gator. Could you ring the bell?
What's going on, everybody in podcast world? I got to reintroduce myself. It is me again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I'm Alligator Aloysius Beta at your service, and I'm glad you guys invited me on tonight, man. This is cool. I am the co-host of the Down 5 podcast, being Ralston McGee, the most misogynistic podcast this side of North Kakalaki, and I'm also on the gentler side, the co-host of Dope Discussions with Erica, every Sunday at 7:30 Eastern time. So, I mean, we talk about a lot of relationships and things like that. Guys, I'm just glad that I can actually talk wrestling right now. So until my podcast starts up, I just want to embrace the fact that I'm around a bunch of wrestling podcasters, Black wrestling podcasters. I am completely down with getting all of us together in a room and really just living it up, man, and showing people that it ain't just the white folk that can do stuff like that, man. I know, we get looked down on and all that kind of stuff. There's nothing to be ashamed of, man. We could be doing a whole lot worse than spreading the positivity about this business, man. So I appreciate y'all for having me on. I look forward to coming on again. And next time, I might actually buy some ring attire. I'm going to get fitted. Try to get fitted for that.
That's real, man. That's real. And like I said, don't get it twisted. It's coming. We're gonna do one of the Black podcasts.
Don't get it twisted.
I'm got it twisted too. Oh man. Well, guys, thank you for coming on the show. Daryl, you got some parting words before I close it out?
No, man, another great show. I was a little down in the dumps. My video of mine got released here on Twitter. But thankfully they blamed it on Trey Songz and not me.
Thank God. Okay. Phew.
I was a little upset this morning, but I feel a lot better now talking to these guys, man. A great show.
Woo! Because I mean, we can't have no scandals on the show. Not yet, anyway. Not yet, man. Well, guys, again, thank you for coming to the show. You guys are invited anytime you want to come on the Whip Show, man. You guys are great, man. And like I said, y'all make sure y'all pay attention to what we got coming up for the Black Podcast Convention. And me and Daryl actually got a surprise event coming up very soon. We're going to do a wrestling trivia fundraiser coming down the pike. So stay posted for that. We got some very big wrestling surprises, guest surprises for that, man. Y'all know what to do. Check out our page on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, on all the podcast platforms, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Anchor, Apple, wherever they got podcasts. We own it. Check out my guys. They told you where they at. 11:30 Podcast, Down 5 Podcast. Conversations with Erica. Did I conference? Okay, I tried. Anyway, check them out. Check us out each and every Friday. We'll see you next week. We bring in John Cena Sr. We out. Take care, guys.